Hello, Dr. Wixelman. Um, Today I'm gonna explain about my PowerPoint. I'm using the one for my unit lesson. It's the first lesson that I have for the unit plan, which is emotions. Okay, I kind of modified the PowerPoint a little bit just to add some extra pictures. Okay, so I'm just gonna turn the camera. Okay, this is my introductory slide. This one is just letting us know that it's the class psychology, the unit which is emotions, and this is for sophomores in high school. I added this picture because I believe it's important to have a visual of what it is. Some emotions that appear in this picture are not as common but are still important. For example, grief is something that we all have experienced and it's really important, but it's not one that we are actually going to touch. Also, shame, it's not as common, but we are kind of going to learn a little bit about it. Okay, so this is just my introductory slide. Then the next one is my bell ringer. And as you can see, this is just what is going to be displayed on the board when the students walk in. It's just telling them to write what they see on the notebook. What they see is just many faces showing an emotion. For example, this one is a happy face, or this one is a sad face. Some students are just gonna write like, oh, they're just emotions, or they're just faces, which is actually true. It's actually both of them. There are not really right or wrong answers in this one. Okay, one thing that I did for this PowerPoint is I was going really big on the writing so they can actually see it, because sometimes some classes are big, and I'm doing a lot of pictures. Like this one has 12 pictures just for one bell ringer. And my goal is so they can have the visual. Maybe they will not remember the picture, that word or the definition, but they might remember the picture. And what some teachers are doing nowadays, they take the test or the quizzes online, and they can add the pictures, and it's easier for the students to place them. Okay, so for my next slide, what I have is my objectives. Students will remember, students will be able to identify basic emotions, recognize and name basic emotions, and put a facial on a basic emotion. My goal is students will learn the basic emotions. The reason is this is the introduction of the unit. This is the easy part. In this part, you just have to remember the facials, the emotions, and just place them. This is just introducing everything, because maybe on day 3 everything will get much harder. Okay, the next part is the vocabulary. In this part, students have to write. They have to write the word, the definition. Maybe if they want, they can draw the pictures. Okay, but for example, have the word, definition, and have pictures. And students will notice that some emotions are very similar. For example, maybe these two, the red one and the green one. Okay, both of them look happy. Okay, but maybe this one could be happy, and this one could be someone who's proud. Okay, they are very similar because one thing could lead to the other one, or this one. He's angry, but this one looks very angry. Okay, so they will learn that there are some that are similar, but they're slightly different. And again, what I'm doing in this PowerPoint, I'm adding lots of pictures for the students to learn. Okay, there are two elements in emotions. The first one is physiological. Okay, and in this part, what I'm doing is I'm adding pictures so they can remember. Okay, and for example, in this picture, it's just like a very little introduction to the nervous system, which is just mainly the 3 parts, because maybe on day 3 they will learn more about it, but it's more complex. Okay, so again, 2 pictures so they can actually remember the word. Okay, second element. Okay, and again, I'm actually using pictures for the students to learn. Okay, and maybe what the students can do, they can actually just draw a picture in their notes so they can actually remember it. Okay, again, word and the definition and pictures so they can actually remember. For example, this one I like it a lot because I have the word fear, and that's fear. He's showing fear to the bear. Okay, so the hunter is running away from the bear to survive, which is something they're gonna learn, that emotions are actually meant to help us survive. This one is shaping future behavior. Okay, so in the future they're gonna learn about shaping behavior. Okay, and I like this picture because he is removing something. These are probably the steps to do a behavior, but he's removing something, and that is actually what is stopping or reshaping a behavior. Okay, so they're gonna learn that later on, but like I said, what I'm doing is just helping them with pictures. And then I'm using this one, cause, effect, action, reaction. For example, in the other slide, the bear, the action is the bear trying to scare the hunter. The reaction is the hunter running away. So that is actually what is happening here. So everything that it's like all emotions have like a cause, and the emotion is the reaction. Okay, why do we use emotions? That's just to interact with others. So I like I'm using these pictures to help the students. For example, 2 girls just playing with dolls, it's like she's showing happiness, so the other girl is showing happiness as well. Okay, so and this picture it's very related too, because they are communicating with each other. So and they both seem happy. Again, lots of pictures to help the students understand. Okay, and then we go to the main idea, basic emotions. Basic emotions is the one that we see a lot in babies. Okay, and they have the pictures of all the emotions that a baby can show. And depending on what it is, we might be able to figure it out what the baby needs. Okay, for example, the baby is happy. In this case, the baby looks a little bit fussy. Maybe could be angry. Or in this one, he looks maybe happy as well. Okay, so they have the visual so they can remember that basic emotions are the ones that we see in babies. Okay, but then we move on to the more self-conscious emotions, which are the ones that a toddler might show. Okay, for example, this girl, she looks ashamed of herself. Maybe she did something really bad, or she ate something that maybe she wasn't supposed to. But she's showing that emotion because she knows she did it. So that is actually part of the cognitive development, which is part of the definition. Or maybe this child, she's probably about maybe, I don't know, 4 or 5 years old. And she might be angry maybe because she didn't get to go outside. So she's aware of it, so she's showing that. Okay, that's how they can remember that. Some older children, toddlers, they are self-conscious, so they know they did something and they show that emotion as a result. Again, using the pictures to help them remember. What's the difference? In the other slide, we show basic emotions are the ones in babies. In these ones, toddlers. And that's what's helping them remember the pictures. Okay, in this part, this is just like some guiding practice. Okay, and my goal is not to go to the board and just tell them the answers. I want them to participate. Okay, for example, I'm just gonna pick a random question. How do we use emotions to interact with others? Okay, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna ask the students to help me answer that. If they are too shy or they don't want to participate, I can just pick a random name and they have to go to the board and write it down. Maybe if they write it down and the class helps, they will remember it. Okay, they will get to write these questions if they want to. Otherwise, I'm not gonna require them. These are just to help them remember. Okay, I'm using these in my slides and I'm gonna keep using them to help me remember myself that these are just questions that the students have to answer. Okay, however, there is one question that I like a lot that I wrote, and it's the last one. How do we communicate with people that do not speak the same language as we do? Okay, this is where the students are going to learn or make the connection that, for example, if we have a newcomer in the class and that student does not speak any English, how do we communicate with that student? Maybe smiling at that student, showing that student facials that he's welcome, or by doing some emotions. That's how. Okay, so then they're gonna learn that maybe it's just not about speaking, it's more like about showing that student that right emotion. Okay, so that is just to help them make a connection that every emotion has a face and that face affects others. So that is my goal with this slide, just to help them practice. They get to write the answers, we share with each other, and we help the person at the front. Or maybe I do it if they're good, if they're doing really good and they are helping each other and they are telling me the answers, I just have to write them down. Okay, then for the next slide, there is a video and they have to discuss and take notes. I'm gonna tell the students really clear that they have to take notes about this video. I will be pausing the video and I will be telling them what the video is about. However, my main goal is for them to write what is on the slide, which is this: anger, fear, disgust, happiness, sadness, surprise, and contempt, which is right here. Once again, I'm doing the connection of the words with the picture. Every one of these has the same emotion as the ones I have them write down. This one says joy. Maybe you cannot see it really well, but it says joy. Okay, but it's the same as happiness. Okay, the video also explains about the positive and negative emotions. That's the part that I want them to take from the video as well. Okay, for example, if you look at the words, the only positive emotion is happiness. Surprise could be maybe positive or negative depending on it. But for the most part, it's happiness. Okay, but why is that? Anger, fear, disgust, sadness, surprise, and contempt. Why are they negative, or why are there so many negative emotions and we just have one positive? Okay, so that's what I want them to learn from the video. That's why I picked the video, and it's actually a good video. Okay, again, I'm using pictures to help them understand, and if they look at this is pretty much the only positive emotion. This one looks surprise, yes, but it's more like a negative surprise. Okay, then I have an activity. It's just to help the students interact with the material so they can actually learn it. I don't have a picture for this because it's an activity. Okay, So for this one, what I'm doing is a game. My goal for this slide is to again help the student make the connection that every emotion has a face. The game, just to make it a summary, it's just to pick a paper. Okay, they have it has an emotion written on it, and the student gets to go to the front and act the emotion. The rules are not talking, just act. Easy as that. Then the rest of the class has to guess the emotion. Okay, for example, someone got the emotion happiness. So the student might jump in front of the class and show the big smiley face. Then the students get to guess. Okay, every student will have to act one emotion, even if it's a repeated one. My goal is, with this game, is to reinforce that there is a face for every emotion. And they can transmit that emotion to others, because we will guess the emotion. Okay, so that's just an activity, again, just to interact with the material and reinforce what they have learned. Then I have a Quizlet that is just, again, to reinforce what they have learned and to keep the students engaged and to keep them learning while they have fun. Psychology is not about just lectures. It'll be really boring if we do that. So I have a lot of activities and just very little writing, and not that much just me at the front talking. Okay, the Quizlet has everything that we have learned, and I know that because I made it. Okay, and then as homework or assignment or homework, I have a poster. They have to work in groups and draw all 7 basic emotions. They will draw the face, which they have learned with activity. They will have to explain that in the poster. They will also present it to the front of the class. They will explain why that emotion is important. For example, fear to survive, and if it's negative or positive. Okay, so that is pretty much their assignment. That's how I will assess that they have learned, and that's pretty much what they will do. Maybe that will get done by the next day, and they will present the next day, which is okay. And for my exit ticket, they just have to write one important fact they learned from the lesson. Maybe, okay, there are basic emotions, and some are positive, some are negative, and that's how they will exit the classroom. Okay, and I just want to show something that I forgot here. During this practice is how I will be assessing that the students are learning as well. Because if they cannot answer these questions, that means that they are not catching the material and that it is already too hard. I chop this unit in small chunks because, like I said, it gets hard really fast. So that's why I'm doing these question marks as well, to help me remember that to ask questions to make sure they are learning. And also, with the activity, if they cannot come up with something, that means that they're getting stuck, and that's how we'll know that I need to slow down. So that is another way that I will be assessing that they are understanding. Quizlet is also meant to help them reinforce what they are learning, because once they get to Quizlet, they have to match the word with the definition. So if they can do that, that means that they're getting stuck. So this is another way to assess that they are learning everything in the lesson. and I'm sorry about that I forgot to mention it. Okay, my exit ticket is just write one important fact that they have learned from the lesson. Okay, and my goal with these exit tickets are just to make sure the students are learning everything. If they cannot give me just one sentence of what they have learned, that means that they're getting stuck and they have to write their names. So that's why I'm doing it. Exit tickets, I noticed it's a big improvement, because if the students tell you, okay, I didn't learn anything, that means that maybe you have to slow down, or maybe you thought a lesson was easy but they didn't understand it completely. Okay, so that's one. Those are things that I'm doing to assess for learning throughout the lesson. Also, for example, in these hard vocabulary words, I notice they're kind of confusing. These are just the elements of emotion. Okay, if they can match element 1 with flight or fight reaction, then it'll be just fine, because they will learn the rest as we move on. So these are just the 2 hard vocabulary words, and that is just it's not really vocabulary words, to be honest. It's more like the elements of emotions. And okay, for example, that element 2, which is the cognitive one, is just like it's more like mentally. It's more like, okay, so this is happening but it's affecting my body. That's how I explain it. Or the one physiological, it's more like, okay, so I'm experiencing something, so that is a reaction. So that's how I would explain it. Physiological, I guess, I'm pretty sure it's more like what is happening, so, and this is my reaction. Whereas this one is what is happening, and this is what is happening internally. So those are just the really hard ones. Otherwise, the rest are pretty much more simple ones, more common ones. Okay, so yeah, that's how I would explain this lesson. Again, my goal is just to get them knowing on basic emotions. One thing is that I'm doing lots of pictures to help the students learn and just help them remember everything. I have activities and I have some homework as well. I also have the practice in which we all do it, like as a group, or like they help me do it to have them more engaged. Like, okay, so you guys tell me, then I write it down, or you guys help each other, and someone else comes to the front and do it. And this is just to keep them interested in the class. If it's just lecture, I could just lecture them about emotions, and it will not be fun. It will not be fun. So I'm doing more like activities to have them interact with each other. A video here and there. That is also that every single psychology teacher is going to use lots of videos. Okay, but I'm also having activities, and this one I just thought about it. I'm like, oh, that'll be fun to do. And I'm also doing some Quizlets. Yes, it's a lot of work, but it'll be worth it. So okay, so this is pretty much it, and I think I explained pretty much everything. And thank you, Dr. Wixelman, and Happy New Year's.